Hello ladies and gents, boys and girls, people of all ages, sexualities and identities, and welcome back to another play review. And today's play review is A Fate Worse Than Death by Richard James. So the other day I had the great fortune to go to Colchester and go to the Headgate Theatre to go and watch this. Now before we get into the play, I'd just like to say big shout out to my mate Travis. Great show the other day. Great job on the lighting. I know there was a few issues going on behind the scenes. I could kind of tell what was going on a little bit, but you guys pulled through, and that's the main thing. Now, back to the story at large. A Fate Worse Than Death is a story about a group of people at a fair, and there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes with them in general. We have two stone-cold lovers whose relationship is on a very thin thread. We have a woman who is in charge of the whole shebang, the whole fair, and she feels like she's not really being given the credence, the acknowledgement that she wants. She wants to be the chairman of the committee. She wants to go up in the world, but she hasn't had that opportunity. We have a man who loves to dress as a Viking, and a friend of his who has a mobility scooter dressed as a goth, but that's more off screen. We have an actor from a TV show who plays an inspector. We have an old woman who likes to sell pickled stuff. And of course, no fate would be complete without the Reverend of the town himself. Now the Reverend Farmer finds himself in conflict with another farmer throughout the course of this story, at least in the opening act, where him and the farmer basically begin to argue about the idea of their marrows growing bigger. Now, at one point in the play, our protagonist and his marrow find themselves in a situation in which he soon learns the reason why the father can grow his marrow so big. He's been using caffeine to inflate his marrow, therefore cheating the competition. However, when he confronts the Reverend becomes very tetchy and points out the fact that him knowing this doesn't mean he has any evidence. When the other farmer begins to try and blackmail him, it doesn't work very well. And later on, our protagonist, who ends up getting killed off, finds himself in a situation in which he is distraught after destroying the prized marrow, then to be stabbed in the back on top of that. Then we move on to the second act, where we wake up to this idea where the detective finally realizes, well, he's not really a detective, the actor now has to play the detective he played on screen. He must analyze all of the suspects and eliminate them one by one, figuring out exactly who did it. We then analyze through all the photos and the evidence and realize that half of our characters have been missing this whole time. From one instance to the next, they all seem to disappear out of the photographs. They then try to point the finger at the poor old woman who's been taking the pictures, rather than actually owning up to the fact that they've all been in coerces. By the end of the play, we find out there's not one murderer, but 4. It turns out that everyone in this story had a reason to murder off our protagonist. Everyone except from the actor and the old woman selling pickles. One wanted to kill him off because she wanted to be chairman. One wanted to kill him off because she wanted to move on and have her liaison with another man. The other man wanted to have him potted off because, well, he was getting in the way. And also because he wasn't treating a certain young lady the way she should be treated. And our Reverend just wanted him out of the way. They all tried to conceal the evidence by putting the cake slicer that was used to kill him in a cake box. However, that cake box should never have been left on them, and on top of it, they should never have kept the real walkie-talkie, which had been working, in the Viking's pocket. The Viking tried to disguise it by saying that he kept going to the beer tent. Now, he wasn't lying, he did go to the beer tent, but at one instance he goes there when nobody would suspect him, making it the perfect crime. All four of them by the end of the play are then taken off to the police, and our actor, who keeps on joking that he doesn't have a wife, goes off with the old woman to talk to the police and tell them all of the evidence. So, A Fate Worse Than Death. What did I think of this play in general? It's a very fetching play, and I like the way that it works out, and I like the twist. However, the only reason personally I feel like it's not my favourite is because throughout the course of this play, even though I can understand why she wasn't guilty, the old woman, to me, just in my own personal opinion, could have also gotten away with being a part of this triad of murderers. Why? Because no one would suspect her. Well, she's been selling pickles the whole time. Who would ever suspect her of doing anything in foul play? However, my thoughts aside, I do very much think this was a very good play in general. It uses very little props and doesn't need too much space, and it relies on its narrative rather than its effects. I also like how conveniently the other day, I don't know if they'd done this on purpose, but the woman who was playing the old woman who sells the pickles, the other day ironically, they joked about Miss Marple, but I don't know if they'd done it intentionally, but she was dressed very similar to Miss Marple. I also like that there was a couple jokes in there the other day about Poirot and such. The only thing I feel like this play needs a little bit more, pacing-wise, is maybe a couple more jokes, just a couple more things to keep it lively. But other than that, this play is an absolute smash, and for that reason, I give it a solid 7 out of 10. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next play review. Till then, goodbye, stay beautiful, you beautiful people.